Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here. This is a quick something I wanted to include before we got onto the review / sketch of the 5 Doctors. Now both have already been filmed and actually were already edited before I had to include this little bit, but this video would have come out after the time of this news coming out, so I'm having to include this at the start of the videos and re-edit and upload it. But basically, Terrance Dicks has passed away as of September the 2nd, 2019. So I am dedicating the review to Terrance Dicks as he wrote this story. And this is his final television story script. He, of course, did many of the Target novelizations, as well as plenty of expanded medium, both books and audio. And also, he actually wrote The 8 Doctors. That was a good story as well. Good book. And I think he did the Destiny of the Doctors games, which I may cover in a video later down the line when we get to Sylvester McCoy's era. Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann era, definitely in the wilderness years. So, yes, this video is, this review is dedicated to the memory of Terrance Dicks, one of the greatest script editors and writers of Doctor Who, up there alongside Robert Holmes, of course. And lots of great stories, but my particular favourite Terrance Dicks story, or at least of the television stories, is, of course, The 5 Doctors, which this is the review of that story, so it makes a lot of sense to include this dedication at the start to Terrance Dicks. And yeah, so like with The Hand of Fear being dedicated to the memory of Stephen Thorne, who passed away when I was editing that review. I found out he had passed away that day, so I dedicated it to him, as well as Elizabeth Sladen, of course. So, the 5 Doctors review dedicated to the memory of Terrance Dicks. I hope you enjoyed the review. The Doctor has been taken out of time. We believe the attempt to take out the 4th Doctor from his timeline has resulted in a kind of a temporal paradox of some sort. It wasn't a temporal paradox, what am I talking about? Or something. What about the Doctors after the latest incarnation? Couldn't you get one of them to help? Oh, we didn't think of having any Doctors past the current incarnation of this story, because it's the current incarnation of this story. But at the time of this story coming out, the next guy had been announced. Oh yeah. Oh well, we won't trouble him. He's got his own problems that he has to contend with, like trying not to strangle his companions, if you know what I mean. You are an idiot. I know. The cosmos without the Doctor scarcely bears thinking about. Yes, that was a nod to the wilderness years, by the way, audience. Better not very popular Doctor than no Doctor at all, don't you agree? Yes, I know I'm an idiot. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of the Doctor Who 20th Anniversary Special, The 5 Doctors. Okay. I just want to quickly mention that I did actually film this review yesterday, but due to some technical problems in editing, by the looks of it, for some reason the voice wasn't linking up with moving of the mouth as I was going through it late around the 7-minute mark. So I don't know what was happening there, but the footage looked fine. So I don't know what was wrong. So I'm redoing it again, and if the problem is the same, then we're just gonna put up with it. Okay, so the Five Doctors. This is possibly one of the best stories of all time. Yeah, I love this story. I mainly love the plot. The plot is a mysterious villain who I shall not name to avoid spoilers has taken the 5 incarnations of the Doctor out of time. So basically the 5 as of this story, although the 6th Doctor had been announced. And it is a bit of a shame that Colin Baker doesn't cameo, not even as his Commander Maxfield character from Arc of Infinity. That would have been a nice appearance. But oh well, never mind. As for the other Doctors, well, the 4th Doctor gets stuck in a temporal paradox, I think. And he's stuck there, and it's threatening his other selves, or at least his the 5th incarnation. Meanwhile, 1, 2, and 3 have been brought out of time to play the game of Rassilon in the deadly Death Zone, and the 5th Doctor is also brought there after experiencing some cosmic angst. So they, as well as companions, Susan, the Brigadier, Sarah Jane Smith, Tegan and Turlough, and also Romana is trapped with 4. They have to play the game of Rassilon, and they have to try and find a way of escaping the Death Zone. The 5th Doctor also has to find out who was behind their kidnapping and who wants Rassilon's immortality, as that is the prize for winning the game. They also have help / complications from the Master, who is originally sent by the Time Lords to help the Doctor, but after the Doctor scorns him a little bit, and after pretending to work with the Cybermen for a short while, he then tries to take the immortality. However, he is dispatched by the 3rd Doctor and the Brigadier, and is sent away by Rassilon at the end. So we'll deal with him in Plans of Fire. Okay, before we jump in, the negatives for this story, the negative points, because I want to get these out of the way first before I can talk more positively. First of all, there is a few editing niggles in the story that I kind of noticed. It's mainly in the original broadcast version, and in some cases the special edition sort of fixes that. But similarly, some scenes in the special edition can go on a bit too long, such as stuff inside the TARDIS. I think that it can go a bit too long. So I do have a few slight edit issues. However, for the most part, it's edited really well, and it puts this great script together brilliantly. It's just that there was a few editing problems every now and again. The main one that neither version, that the original version did and the special edition doesn't fix, is when Susan says look, and then it cuts to her looking at the 1st Doctor and she says come and see. I think there should have been a line where the 1st Doctor asks what is it. Neither the special edition doesn't fix that. So that's only a minor issue, and that's really it. I think the special edition does slightly drag a little bit in some places with its extended scenes. I suppose it's kind of the point that it's the extended cut, but it does drag in some places, and I can understand some stuff being cut for time for the transmitted version. Also, the final scene in transmitted version, that being said, the extended scene was better there, and it felt a little jarring, but not much in the original cut. And Zoe screams a bit too much in the special edition. It's quite haunting the first time you hear it, but then it gets a bit annoying. In the original version, it's not so bad, but not as haunting either. That's really about it. So as for the positives, we got some superb acting. Peter Davison, Janet Fielding, and Mark Strickson continue to be amazing as the 5th Doctor, Tegan and Turlough. This could be their best performances so far. With Peter Davison and Janet Fielding topping their Earthshock, and in Janet Fielding's case, the Kinder and Snake Dance performances. And Turlough's found his feet. He's become his own character here. We also get fantastic performances from returning Doctors Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee, plus also Carol Ann Ford, Nicholas Courtney, and Elizabeth Sladen as Susan, the Brigadier, and Sarah Jane Smith. Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart, and it was great. It makes a lot of sense for him to appear here after his return in his guest appearance in Mordred Undead, and it makes sense for him to know Tegan as well as Sarah Jane. Apparently, for him, this is set after Mordred Undead. This is a reunion party. I also have to give a lot of credit for Richard Herndale as the first Doctor. After William Hartnell's passing, they got in another actor to play the first Doctor here, similar with David Bradley in Twice Upon a Time. And whilst Bradley was a bit too soft-spoken, soft-mannered, a little bit doddery in some places, Herndale's a bit gruffer, harsher in some bits, and a bit more stern. So both of them kind of have part of the William Hartnell portrayal, but they're missing that middle ground. Neither of them are quite William Hartnell standard. I think William Hartnell is still the best first Doctor, at least the best person to play the first Doctor, in different versions of the character. We see later on William Hartnell remains the best, even after all these years later. This also includes audio, although I haven't heard Peter Purvett's impression yet, but William Russell does a great impression. But props to Richard Herndale for taking on this probably difficult task of not impersonating William Hartnell, but being the first Doctor in his own right and being very similar to him without having to be too much like him or copy him. And in that respect, he does manage that. It's just that I think Herndale could have had some more softer moments, more humorous bits. He's got the sharper side of the character down without having to get too angry or too cross, but he doesn't have as much warmth. And similarly, David Bradley, when he comes to play the first Doctor, isn't tough or sharp enough. He's a bit too soft, and he doesn't quite have as many of the mannerisms, but he still does good, considering the material he gets in Twice Upon a Time. Yeah, considering that, the performance is the least worst thing to worry about with that portrayal of the first Doctor. Anyway, so moving on. And Tom Baker and Lana Ward are great in the scenes from Sharda that have been used to complete their missing sections of the story. And I like how the original version we got the punting scene for when the Fourth Doctor and Romana are introduced and then kidnapped. Then they have a picture of them in the Professor's study or office and living quarters for the picture of them being stuck in the time thingamajig, and then the clip of the Doctor fist pumping the air and Romana coming to his rescue when the spear nearly attacks him in Part 2 or Part 3 of Sharda, and quickly goes into the TARDIS. That's when they get rescued, released by Rassilon. So it's nice to have a variety of clips from Sharda used. In the special edition, they mainly focus on just the punting scene. The punting scene is probably left as it is, minus the visual effects change for the triangle thing. I don't know if it's extended or not, or shortened maybe even. But they do that, and then when we have the picture of the Fourth Doctor and the time scoop thing, it's just the Doctor. It's a picture of the Doctor with the punt on the river, and then at the end, when they're released, we just see the triangle thing moving away from a wider shot of the Fourth Doctor and Romana on the punt. So that kind of keeps it continuity-wise, that they've been released in the exact same spot as where they were earlier, and they were trapped in the same spot where they were earlier, instead of moving from one place to another and then released at a different place. I also have a way to tie in the original Sharda, the unbroadcast version, but has been, of course, released in some form of or retold many ways with the 1992 VHS linking material version, and of course the 2017 partly animated version being the most notable, and with the 2017 one being probably being the definitive version of the story now, and definitely the one that everyone would consider canon, despite not being broadcast. And this is a way to tie it in because the 2003 Sharda audio / webcast was which features Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor. They're able to explain that because the Fourth Doctor was taken out of time, they weren't able to sort out the thing they originally went there to do. And then when they were placed back in time, they just carried on with their adventures. So travelling to Brighton Beach at the start of the Leisure Hive, or having a few adventures in between. For example, a few adventures before the Leisure Hive. So, yeah, and then the Eighth Doctor realises that they've never finished the job, so they've got to go back and finish it. And I'd like to quickly tie in Sharda, the Fourth Doctor Sharda. I think the events of that story play out as normal in that story. We just don't see him until 2017 version, because the story wasn't finished, it wasn't broadcast, but 2017 version as it is, canon. So the story plays out exactly how that happens, fine. Then we get to the Five Doctors, and then our villain takes the Doctor and Romana out of time at the punting scene of the punting, and that he actually accidentally changes time at the same time. He changes time so the events of 2017 Sharda are now no longer, are not in that timeline. Time has changed, and then when they're placed back in time, they're placed a little bit later on, whether this is in another location or back at punting, depending on your version of the story. Then they just decide to leave and not finish the job. So basically, what the Five Doctors does is not make Sharda, the 2017 Sharda, it doesn't make it not canon, it just skips it. And then, when we get to 2003, the Paul McGann Sharda, we then go back to the same, probably around the same time, and then do the job there, and then jump back to the future. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, Sharda takes place as normal. However, once the villain starts interfering with taking the Doctors out of time, he then accidentally changes time, and then the events of Tom Baker's Sharda don't happen. And then when Paul McGann's the Doctor, he then realises they've got to go back and do the whole thing again, basically. And then they do that, and then it's all the timeline's all unstable. So that's how I'd keep both Tom Baker and Paul McGann versions of Sharda canon, and connect it via the Five Doctors and our villain accidentally changing time by mistake. A bit like with the Fourth Doctor changing time with Genesis of the Daleks, and the first three Doctors' Dalek stories don't really happen, or not quite the same way, arguably, or with the Big Bang and everything that came before not quite happening the same way. I suppose with Amy remembering the Doctor, they were able to stabilise everything and time doesn't get confused. As well as these guys, we also have Anthony Amy as the Master. He's once again amazing. And we've also got, I can't remember these actors, but we got Barusuf, the fourth actor, to play him. And he reminds me a lot of Jeremy Brett, and I kind of wish that he had been Barusuf in a way. Oh well, I would have liked Jeremy Brett to have appeared. Sadly, that's not going to happen. Same with Roger Moore. He's not going to become a Doctor Who character like he wanted to. We also get the Castellan, who played by the same actor as the one in Arc Infinity, and we have Chancellor Flavia, who is a new character, basically, and in the end, technically becomes acting Time Lord President, before probably being the official President until Trial of a Time Lord. And also, we get a guard who is not Commander Maxill. I would have liked Commander Maxill, because that means we would have gotten Colin Baker to make a cameo. Even if he wouldn't be playing the Doctor, he would still get to play a cameo. Nice. I suppose maybe it was because he was already cast as the Doctor. Maybe that's why he's not here. But like I said, it would have been nice for him to cameo. This also does bring me to another negative, I just realised, because I'm now about to talk about the monsters. First of all, we have a Dalek, which is voiced by Roy Skelton, of course, and sadly, the dialogue seems to be Destiny of the Daleks style dialogue. It's just, halt at once, halt, or you will be exterminated. It is the Doctor, exterminate! And then just repeat that a couple of times. It's not even exterminate every now and again. It's just, halt, or you will be exterminated. Dalek, they're not going to stop. They're not going to let themselves be exterminated just because you tell them to. So, yeah, Dalek gets a couple of weak lines, and I think, I don't know, we're still in Destiny of the Daleks dialogues zone with Dalek. I don't know if I can blame this to writer Terence Dix, and if that was the case, then he should know better, because he script edited 3 Dalek stories and a story that featured the Daleks in a minor role. And if it's Eric Sayward, the script editor, then he would go on to do the Daleks much better in his 2 Dalek stories that are coming up. And if it's John Nathan Turner, then, okay, no excuse for you, mate. I mean, I know you hate the Daleks, but you can at least write their dialogue better. Or at least get someone to write their dialogue better. On the other hand, the Cybermen are treated great, although they've had a bit of a voice change from Earthshock. Maybe this is to make them less emotional. But at the same time, the emotional thing was kind of what made them unique in a way. I mean, it was strange to make them sound a bit more emotional in Earthshock and have some emotional gestures. But it was quite fun, to be honest. It was quite interesting. And I think the same would be said for Attack of the Cybermen and Silver Nemesis when we get to them. But here they've kind of changed the voices a little bit, and it sounds a bit strange. And this is for both versions. There's also 2 groups of Cybermen, both with their own cyber leader. One lot that are going with the Master, and another lot that are trying to blow up the TARDIS for some reason. Then we've also got one single Yeti using the same costume from the Web of Fear, and it's nice to see it back. Especially when it goes up against the Second Doctor and the Master. And then we've also got a Raston Warrior robot, which is a new villain. However, the costume looks like it was one of the androids from Earthshock, but repainted silver. And that has a really cool action scene with the Cybermen, extended for the special edition, and it looks really cool, really well done. This Raston Warrior robot proves to be a brilliant adversary for the Dr. Sarah and the Cybermen. And of course, we've also got the main villain of the story, but I won't talk much about them. We also have cameos from past companions. We get Mike Yates, Liz Shaw, Jamie and Zoe, played by Richard Franklin, Caroline John, Fraser Hines, and Wendy Papri as Phantoms of the Past. They have some great moments. And also John Leeson returns to voice K9 in one scene. And this scene where we also get introduced to Sarah Jane for the story, it's a nice little tie-in to K9 and Company. So this special is managing to tie in a lot of stuff together and doing it really well, and a great story. And also I love the Time Lord lore and history and exploring it. And Rassilon's a good character. This is probably Rassilon at his nicest we're ever going to see on screen, and probably also in expanded media. This is probably Rassilon at his nicest. And that being said, he still punishes the villain in a pretty nasty way. Still, he gets what he wants, sort of. But yeah, I'm not really keen on the voice deepening in the special edition version. Doesn't really make him any booming or scary or more threatening. It just makes him sound weird. I preferred him actually sounding normal in the original version. Although I do think the actor is the weakest actor to play Rassilon. Well, it's him or Donald Stumter. But we can all agree Timothy Dalton's the best. Hashtag Timothy Dalton as Rassilon for life. Timothy Dalton's just amazing in everything, isn't he? Sadly, we're not talking about his Rassilon until we get to the end of time, which is still... let's see, 6 more seasons of the classic series and 4 series of the new series, plus the Wilderness Years and a couple of specials. Let's say about 9 and a bit seasons time. Yeah. Let's say nearly 10 seasons time we'll see him. So we'll see him in just under 10 seasons time. Okay, and Donald Stumter a further a further 5 seasons. Yeah, and P.S. I'm counting classic and new series as overall seasons. When talking about all 37, I'm allowed to say, series 4 counts as 9 seasons away, for example, or series 9 is 5 seasons from that. So yeah, and speaking of which, after this story, we've only got 17 more seasons altogether. Yes! 6 of which are in the classic series. Yeah, 6 more seasons and we'll wrap up the classic series. Anyway, back to it. So Rassilon, great stuff here, great stuff, and I love the expansion. And wrapping up the review, fantastic cinematography. The locations are stunning. I wouldn't be surprised if they were filmed in Wales, something that the new series would do quite often. Like pretty much 80% of its location filming would be in Cardiff. No, sorry, in Wales. Most of its indoor filming would, its studio filming would be in Cardiff. But yeah, brilliant locations, and they all work brilliantly into the script and look absolutely marvellous. Visual effects for both versions look pretty good, although there were some I wasn't so keen on initially in the special edition, and still not quite so keen on, but they look really nicely updated and really cool. And the original version, they also look some really cool visual effects, and it just looks really well. As I mentioned, the editing's pretty good, apart from a few niggle points that I had, and cinematography looks amazing. Script is brilliant, dialogue is brilliant, apart from for the Dalek, and the story is just magnificent. So, on the whole, despite a few nitpicks and niggles with personally, the story is pretty much perfect, apart from what they did with the Dalek, because I think the Dalek could have had better dialogue. But besides that, the Five Doctors is near perfect. So I'm going to give this story a 10 out of 10. Yeah, I think this is a brilliant and magnificent story, and a fantastic way to celebrate Doctor Who's 20th anniversary. 20 years! That is amazing! 20 years non-stop was an achievement. No wonder it was so successful. It had stories like this every other couple of years. It had magnificent stories, and this was the perfect way to celebrate 20 years. Of course, the 25th and the 50th anniversaries would get even better celebratory stories, but for what we got here, this was a perfect 20th anniversary special. And unlike the Three Doctors, this one actually broadcast close to the 20th anniversary date. In fact, in America, it actually did broadcast on the 20th anniversary date. Got delayed a little bit for the UK for 2 days, so it can be a line-up with Children in Need. Not sure how you show out an hour and a half special in during Children in Need night. You certainly wouldn't be able to do that nowadays. The most you'd get is 10 minutes. Maybe it was before or after the celebration. Yeah, and then later, of course, in 1984, they split the story up into 4 parts for repeats. Not sure why that hasn't been included yet, but oh well. Maybe that's a potential Blu-ray bonus special feature, perhaps. The Five Doctors 4-part version. And of course, in 1995, for the VHS, they of course made the special edition version, which was released on the very first Doctor Who DVD release in 1999. God, that DVD's 20 later this year. Almost as old as I am. So yeah, that's really cool. This DVD here is the 2008 25th anniversary edition, so the 25th anniversary of the story. And it would be it's one of the special edition releases of Doctor Who DVDs. We've got special edition releases of other stories, as you would have seen throughout. However, as the original release was called the Five Doctors Special Edition, due to having the special edition version on that DVD, then this one couldn't be called the Five Doctors Special Edition. And instead of just the Five Doctors, they decided to call it the 25th Anniversary Edition. And what a great 25th Anniversary DVD release this is. Yeah, and that was 9 years ago. So the Five Doctors is now 36 years old. So and it still holds up. Still holds up really well. 36 years, still holds up really well. So, yeah. Fantastic 20th anniversary story. And that ends Doctor Who's 20th anniversary year. And also, we're about to go into Peter Davison's final season. Although, sadly, it won't be a complete final season. As the last story is given to Colin Baker. And we'll talk more about that when we get to it. That's still his first story. But we still got 6 more stories with Peter Davison. 2 if you include the 2 versions of Resurrection of the Daleks and Planet of Fire, which we will get to. But yeah, 20th anniversary, great time. And actually looking back through this season 20 is actually pretty good. Mostly. For the most part. I think I kind of reevaluated this series a little bit more on reflection. So you know what that means with the 5 Doctors being included in season 20, as far as I'm concerned. then it will be included as part of the Season 20 ranking, just like it was. This review is part of the Season 20 reviews. After that, we will then be moving on to Season 21, starting with Warriors of the Deep. And this is another one of my earliest Doctor Who DVDs. And at the time, I actually enjoyed this one quite a lot. It was one of my earlier favourite stories. However, over time, getting more stories and learning other people's opinions and start seeing where they're coming from with such a story, perhaps this one may not fare so favourably now, after nearly 9 years since my initial viewings of the story, especially as a lot of people seem to hate it. So I'll see how I think on the latest viewing when we take a look at Warriors of the Deep, and that'll be the next review, but before that, Season 20 ranking. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. The footage itself was fine. Yes, I hope so. It's not really that easy to tell with this camera, unfortunately. But okay, the 5 Doctors, and also to let you know, I look at it. I'll cut that. But oh well, we'll have to. We've got. Doesn't say. So, got some slightish editing version. They don't quite. Neither of them quite get. Are not. The William Russell is a very good one. I'll give him. William Russell's a. I also have a few. I also. And the 5. Then we get when the villain changes. Then when the villain. Go away. Yeah, so that's how I would connect it. Whilst keeping the Tom Baker version of Shada, and whilst basically a bit like if Genesis of the Daleks, although that one things don't get affected as much. I suppose with the return of the Doctor into the universe via Amy, then they might be able to have brought everything back. Anyway, so back to 5 Doctors. So yeah, and also we also get a character from Arc of Infinity, played by the same actor. He's back. He's good for what we get, and also another character who was in Arc of Infinity. Same with Roger Moore. He's not gonna have a C. Yeah, and as I mean, not the best thing. I mean, it was all. And then we've also got a cameo from a Yeti, which is pretty cool. Hang on, I haven't finished the silent. And a further 4 C. And Donald stumped through a C. And Donald stumped through a. Hopefully that should sort it. So hopefully that's enough time before it cuts. No wonder they celebrated. God, that's 20 years old. That's 20. This DVD came. The one that I've got here is the 2008 special edition. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's the 2008. this DVD here is basically the although sadly not the whole season won't be dead. So you know what coming next with this story included as part of season 20. It's next. So you know what's coming next with this story So you know what's coming next with the 5 Doctors included as part of my season 20 reviews. It's now being included. It's being included. This means we're now going to be moving on to the Get it right. And after that we will do especially as I've heard it's one of so yeah, so we'll find out. But recently, but at time of recording, which we are reviewing which is what we are reviewing in this review, which is the story that this is, and it's that which this is. So it makes a lot of sense, and